So today we're going to learn how to write percents as decimals, decimals and percents, and we're going to throw some fractions in there as well. So just like always, to make sure that we're speaking the same language, we're going to define a vocabulary word, and our vocabulary word is percent. And when you hear the word cent, like century or cent, cents in a dollar, stop and think for just a second. What do you think of? Well, hopefully you think of century, and how many years are there in a century? How many cents are in a dollar? And hopefully you know that there's 100 years in a century and 100 cents in a dollar. So when you hear the word percent, that means out of 100. So the word percent, translated like exactly the right way, means of 100. So when you talk about 89%, that means you got 89 out of 100. So that's where the word comes from. The cent means 100. So what we're going to do today is we're going to write percents as decimals and decimals as percents. And in order to do that, we're going to write our algorithm. So when we write percents as decimals, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the percent symbol. And then the second step is we're going to divide by 100, or what we're doing kind of practically is moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So I'm going to write that down, and you can too. Alright, so I wrote down the algorithm. Remove the percent symbol, so just take that off. You don't need it anymore. Then you're going to divide by 100. That's the mathematical thing. Or what most people just remember to do is move the decimal point 2 places to the left. When you move the decimal point 2 places to the left, you're dividing by 100. So that's the algorithm for writing percents as decimals. Then our next algorithm is writing decimals as percents, and we're going to undo that basically. So instead of dividing, we're going to multiply by 100, or we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Then step number 2 is we're going to place the percent sign back on our answer. So I'll write that down. Alright, so there's the algorithm written down. Multiply by 100, or move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Place the percent symbol on the answer. And it is really important to either remove the percent sign if you're writing it as a decimal, or putting the percent sign on if it's a percent, because if you don't, even though it seems like it's a minor thing, those answers are two very different things, like if you put the percent symbol on when you're not supposed to, or vice versa. So really make sure that you remember those, let me star them, you remember those two steps of the algorithm. So here's our first example. Write the percents as the decimal. Number 1 says write 52% as a decimal. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the percent sign. That's according to my algorithm. Then my decimal point is understood to be here. I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So it's going to end up here. So my answer is 0.52. Alright, then number 2, write 7% as a decimal. I'm going to start with my no percent sign, then my decimal point is here, and I'm going 1, 2, so there's where my decimal point goes, and then I just fill that in with a 0. So my answer is 0.07. And we did this back when we did our number system unit. So this should feel like a review, and I also think you've done it with Mrs. Whetstone. Our next example, example 2, says writing decimals as percents. We're going to write 0.47 as a percent. My algorithm says I take my decimal point and I move it 2 places to the right. So it comes 0.47 becomes 47, And then I need to remember and put my percent symbol on the end. Then my next one, I'm going to move my decimal point 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So I have 66.3%. So it looks like that. And it might seem weird to have a decimal point in your percent, but it's fine. That's okay. You've done it right. All right, then my next one is 1, 2. So my decimal point is going to go there. And then I just fill that gap in with a 0. And then I cannot forget my percent sign on the end. So 1.8 as a percent is 180%. And then my last one, 0.009. I'm going to move my decimal point 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So that becomes 0.00. Oh, I'm writing this as a percent. Let me erase this. So that becomes 0.9%. So there are my decimals written as percents. And if you're having trouble or you're stuck on this, come see me in the morning. But like I say, this should be a review. All right, so you have some on your own to do. You're going to write the percent as a decimal and the decimal as a percent. Go ahead and pause the recording and fill those in, and then you can come back and check it. All right, so I've done the first one. 24% becomes 0.24 as a decimal. Then 3%, my decimal's here, and I'm going to move it to the left 2 places, and that becomes 0.03. Then 107, move it to the left 2 places, 1, 2, becomes 1.07. Then 92.7%, 1, 2, becomes 0.92. So notice how I do these. I'm actually moving the decimal, and I use those little frog hops. That just helps me keep it straight in my head. All right, the next part says write the decimal as a percent, so I'm going to go in the reverse direction. 0.94, 1, 2, becomes 94%. 1.2 becomes 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I fill that little gap in with a 0, so it becomes 120%. Then 0.316, 1, 2, becomes 31.6%. And then my last one, 0.005, becomes 0.5%. So those are my answers for the on your own. All right, now we have a real world problem. Example 3 says on a math test, you get 92 out of 100 points. Which of the following is not another way of expressing 92 out of 100? So 92 out of 100 written as a fraction looks like this. And they are both even numbers, so I know that they are divisible by 2. But I'm just going to use my calculator, and you can do the same thing. 92 ABC 100. I'm going to put that in my calculator. And then when I press equals, I get 23 over 25. So I know that letter A is a way of expressing it, and I want not. 92 out of 100 is 92%, so that one is a way, and I want not. Then 17 out of 20, well, I know that 23 out of 25 is simplified, so I'm guessing that's the one that is not the right answer. And then 0.92, 92% is the same thing as 0.92. I move my decimal point 2 places to the left, 0.92. So letter C is the one that is not correct. It is not the correct way. All right, then on your own, go ahead and pause the video. It says rate 18 out of 100 as a percent, a fraction, and a decimal. So 18 out of 100, I'm going to start with the fraction. I'm not going to do them in order. 18 out of 100 is written like that. I know that they're both divisible by 2 because they are even numbers. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 100 divided by 2 is 50. So that simplifies to 9/50ths. So I've done the fraction. Then as a percent, it's going to be 0.18, or actually that's the decimal, sorry about that. And then as a percent, 0.18 is the same thing as 18%. 18% is the same thing as 18 out of 100. So hopefully this feels like a review to you. We've done this before. If it doesn't, or if there's something that you're still confused on, please come see me in the morning and I will work with you on it.